Hi all and welcome back to the channel. Now, if you're anything like me, you've had next week marked in your calendar for a while as it's Masters Week, one of the biggest events in golf. Who do you think is going to win this year's Masters? Let me know in the comments below. Now, with that in mind, we're all going to be spending large chunks of our time seated watching the golf next week. So in this video, I'm going to go over 5 mobility moves that you can do from the sofa whilst watching the golf. Let's get stuck in. So our first mobility move is going to be our elbow taps. Now these are a great way to help us open up our shoulders, get some shoulder mobility, particularly help us feel what it's like to have our shoulders pulled back a little bit, which is really nice if we're going to spend a lot of time in the seated position. So to do the movement, you're going to have hands at the back of the head, nice and gentle here. You're not really pulling on the head, just nicely in position and with the elbows nice and wide. I'm going to work the elbows in towards each other in a semicircle pattern, tapping them if you can, and then you're going to work the elbows back, and once they're fully back, you're then going to take your palms and work them away from the back of the head and hold there for 2 or 3 seconds. So you're creating some space between the back of the head and your hands, and then place the hands gently back on and we'll work into another rep. So working the elbows towards each other, tapping them if possible, working them back, and then once you can't pull them back any further, taking your hands off the back of the head, holding there for a couple of seconds. So I'll demonstrate this from side up. So hands at the back of the head, sat up nice and tall. I'm going to work the elbows in towards each other through your maximum range of motion. Tap them if possible, work them back, and then once you can't work them back anymore, try and lift the hands off the back of the head and hold in this position for a couple of seconds, and then place them gently back on, and we'll work through one more repetition. So in towards each other, tap if possible, work them back, and then lift off and hold for a couple of seconds. So very simple movement, very effective, will really light the shoulders up. And we'd be looking for 5 to 10 high quality controlled reps, holding at that lift off end range for a couple of seconds each time. So our second mobility move is going to be our seated twists to help us get a little bit of rotation through our trunk. So really simple move. You're going to cross your feet and you're going to place your knees together if you can. You're going to take one hand and place it on the outside of the opposite knee. And then from there, you're going to take your other hand to the back of the couch and you're going to use your hands to pull you into rotation as far as you can, holding at your end range of motion for a couple of seconds and then returning to the start. So we'll do a few more reps, feet together and crossed, knees together. You're going to use that hand on the outside of the knee, other hand at the back of your sofa, and ease yourself into rotation, holding at your end range of motion. So in this position, quite a nice idea to have a big breath out and really try and melt further into that twist. We'll do one more. So really trying to stay nice and relaxed through the shoulders, so we don't want the shoulders hiking up. Nice and relaxed through the shoulders, twisting into that position, holding at end range for a few seconds, and then returning. And obviously we'd do that on both sides, and we'd work through 5 to 10 reps on each side, pausing at end range for a few seconds each time. So our third mobility move is going to be our seated side bend. A really, really simple move, but very, very effective. So I'm going to take one hand and I'm going to place it overhead. Now this hand doesn't have to be locked out, it can have a little bit of softness in it. And I'm going to grab that wrist with my opposite hand. So I'm grabbing my right wrist here with my left hand. And then as I do that, I'm going to side bend over to the left and gently use this left hand to just pull me into a little bit more side bend. So I'm going to work through my maximum range of motion, hold at that end range for a couple of seconds, and then return. So I'm using the hand that's grabbing the wrist to just gently pull me into more side bend. So I'm working over into a side bend left and really help open up all down this right hand side of my body. So we'll do one more. So hands above the head, gripping the wrist, and then I'm gently going to ease myself into that side bend. So using my left hand here on my right wrist to just gently pull me into a little bit further range, holding again at that end range for a couple of seconds, and then returning. Now, obviously we do that on both sides, and we'd be looking for 5 to 10 repetitions through your maximum range of motion, holding at that end range each time for a couple of seconds. So our fourth mobility move is going to be our active hip internal rotations. So for this, I've got a yoga block, but you can quite easily just use a cushion or a pillow. It's just going to go in between your knees for a little bit of feedback. So block goes between my knees. I've got a 90-degree angle through ankles, knees and hips. Shins are nice and vertical, and I'm going to hold on to my chair. I'm going to work through some repetitions on my right hand side. So my right foot is just going to come off the floor a fraction. And from here, I'm going to keep pressure on the yoga block, and I'm going to internally rotate. So I'm going to work this foot out away from the other foot as far as I can, holding at this end range for a couple of seconds, and then working back. Now what will be happening here is this will be working on our hip joint in internal rotation. Now, as we do this, a couple of things that I want you to bear in mind. I don't want you to do this. So that's me just kind of flicking the foot out. The motion is happening there at the ankle joint. The other thing is we don't want to be tilting over and lifting up. So we want to feel like our toes are staying facing forward and we're staying seated. So block between the knees, nice and slowly working that foot out, keeping the toes forward and staying down through this right hand side, holding at this end range position for a few seconds and then returning. So I'll do one more repetition, working out here, holding, keeping this yoga block in place, holding at this end range. Now don't be surprised here if you get almost like a little burning sensation in the hip as it's working hard in this position, and then returning. Very simple move, but very effective to help with that internal hip rotation, which is really important in our golf games. We'd obviously do that both sides for around 5 to 10 repetitions, holding at that end range for a few seconds each time. So our final mobility move is going to be our couch stretch. Now this is a really great way to help stretch out those troublesome hip flexors. So I'm going to show you 2 variations of this movement because the first one is probably a little bit advanced for a lot of people. So I've got a yoga block here which is going to go under my back knee just for a little bit of comfort, but from home a pillow or a cushion does much the same thing. So rear knee is going to go on this yoga block and I'm going to work my back foot up onto my seat. My front foot is in this 90-degree angle, so ankle, knee and hip form a 90-degree angle, and I want to feel like I get nice and tall here. So almost like I'm going to tuck my hips under. So if I had a belt buckle on, I'd be trying to tilt it up towards the ceiling, and this will really help access this front part of the rear leg. Now this is obviously the variation that is a little bit more advanced. So for most people, you might not be able to get into this position. Keep watching and I'll show you an alternative that will be a little bit better suited for you. If you can get into this position though, the nearer you can get the yoga block or the cushion to the seat, obviously the more extreme angle you can create and the greater the stretch. But we want to really make sure that we tuck the hips under, get nice and tall, really feel the tissue on the front side of this rear leg light up. And then from there, we can very gently lean forward a fraction to increase the stretch. And we'd hold this stretch for 30 to 60 seconds on both sides. Now, if that looks a little bit too extreme for you, then what we can do is we can just remove the elevation part of it and we can do the same stretch but from a 90-90 position. So 90-degree angle through front leg, same through the back leg, and then it's exactly the same feeling. I want to feel like I tuck my hips under, so belt buckle up towards the sky, create that nice stretch through the front part of the rear leg, get nice and tall, and then from that position, I can just gently ease forward into it to increase the stretch. So pick the variation here that's most applicable to you. I'd probably start with this one if you're not familiar with the stretch, but if you are and you want to progress to that one, it is a great stretch for quads and for hip flexors. Like I say, we'd be doing 30 to 60 seconds, holding in that pelvis tucked under position, and we do that on both sides. And there you go, 5 super simple mobility moves you can do from the comfort of your sofa whilst watching the golf. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And if there's any future golf fitness videos you'd like to see on the channel, let me know in the comments below. Enjoy the Masters.